partnered up with these two organizations
Can you
for.
start all over that intro? Okay, now it's recording. Go ahead.
Okay, so as an Assemblies of God minister, I've been associated with these two entities, Assemblies of God Financial Services and Church Extension Plan. Basically, what both of these organizations do is they actually give loans to churches. They mostly work with the Assemblies of God, but they give loans to churches, and what you can do is you can take your money and you can go invest in these companies. They are not FDIC insured, so if you're one who says, I have to have all my money in FDIC, I personally believe I'd rather put my money in God than put my money in the government, but that's your call. And so both of these, they have accounts that you can set up with them. Most banks right now, we're Hoosier Hills. Hoosier Hills right now, credit union in Bedford, will pay you 0.1% if you open up a savings account with them. AG Financial right now pays 0.75, so it's 7 times what it is, and Church Extension Plan pays 1.25. And that is, you put your money in for 30 days, and basically if you're at 1.25, that's like earning 0.1 a month. It's basically kind of the way it works out to be. So you can pretty much earn what you would earn in a year, you can about earn that in a month, is pretty much if you want to work with them. The websites are on here, contact numbers. If they ask you for a referral, my name and information is there. I know at AG Financial, when Sojourner called them, they kind of wanted to know a referral. You know, how did you get in contact with us? And she can say, his name's Matt Rubacha, and he's an ordained minister with the Assemblies. But those are two avenues that you can look at if you want to earn a little bit on your money and not just leave it in a bank where right now it really doesn't earn much of.
Right.
So that's there. The third one was actually out of the last training we did. Somebody asked about a financial advisor as far as long-term investments and stock market and other things. And I put on here Joel Schneider right here in Bloomington. His office is right up by the Harley shop. So if you ever want to, and he agreed back in November that he could be used as a reference to be able, if you ever want to sit down with a financial advisor with no obligations, no nothing, he would be a great one to be able to do. He's been with Everett Jones a long time, and he's very highly recommended, and I know him personally. And if I don't know him, I'm not going to recommend him. So don't do business directly with him. In fact, my advisor's still in Terre Haute, where we were originally from. But if you're looking for one to sit down and talk with, Joel would be a good one to be able to do that. So that is what's on this sheet. All right. I thought it'd be best to kind of get all this out of the way up front. Okay, the next one is a 30-day diary, and it is front and back. And we'll explain this. Okay. The 30-day diary has at the top, and I would recommend, one, I can email all these out later on, so if you make sure you sign in the sign-in sheet, I can email these to you, or you can just make copies of this front and back. One of the hardest things about people who begin putting together a budget is they don't really know how much they spend. So what this document does is you will see that at the top has a month and a year. So one of the best things for everybody to do, if you've never done this before, is start February the 1st. And for all 28 days of February, track everything you spend. And you'll see front and back at the top, it says category. So it has income that you took in, your tithe or giving, taxes, housing, food, transportation, insurance, and then on the back it has debts, entertainment and recreation, clothing, savings, medical, miscellaneous investments, and school and daycare. And there could be some others, but the next document that I hand you will kind of tie with this. But track every penny you spend for a month. And then you can add them up at the end, but you'll be able to see where all your money goes. And I will tell you, for most people, this is eye-opening. And this really helps them, because if you're eating out $6, $8 for lunch every day, and you do that 20 days of the month, that's $120 to $160 a month gone. And it can be very eye-opening. So you can use this, you can make copies of it. I can also email this one. All right, I think I handed this one out before when we met in November, but I went ahead and I've actually done a few updates to this one since that time. And this is actually a a template for a budget. So what I've done in this is here on the first page, the top 1/3 or a little less than 1/2 talks about your gross income. So salary, if you made an interest, if you got interest from an account or a dividend, you had a garage sale, your tax return, somebody gave you money, whatever kind of thing, you would put that for that month in those lines. Then below that, you would take into account for if you give to a church or a religious organization, what your tithe would be. And then the taxes that came out of your paycheck. So once again, the gross income is purely off your pay stub gross. And then I have taxes down here and health benefits. So how much ever you're paying out for health benefits each month, your 401k, and then there's room for other. But when you take gross salary and you subtract off the tithe, taxes, and other deductions, that is your net spendable income. That's how much money you have to work with in that given month. And then, if you remember from the 30-day diary, all the categories at the top, all the categories that go down here at the bottom half of page 1, all of page 2, and the top part of page 3, the categories are the same. And so I've tried to go into everything that there potentially could be as far as any expense that you would have in the month. And if there's something you would say, hey Matt, I think you forgot this, let me know, because I'm always up for improving this. I took this template from Crown Financial Ministries, which is an organization that I'm partnered with, but I've kind of changed it a little bit to make it a little bit more practical.
I added miscellaneous, just some general stuff.
Yeah, that's on the back.
Is it on the back?
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay, I didn't see that,
So
okay.
yeah, there's a miscellaneous column, and then here on the top of page 3, miscellaneous, I got toiletries, beauty items, laundry, allowances, subscriptions, things like newspaper, magazines, any gifts that you give like Christmas, weddings, gym memberships. I put massages, because I kind of think that every once in a while you have to splurge a little bit, as long as it's part of your budget. Office supplies, post office, that stuff just doesn't fit under a nice category. So, and you can make copies of that, and I can email that out as well. One more before we really get into the first one. This is one I know I did not have when we were together in November. And this will be of help to some people. This is a debt lender summary sheet. So if you owe anybody anything, whether it's credit card, an auto loan, your student loan, medical, mortgage, whatever, this is really good to be able, and I actually have, if this is all we have and you want more, just grab them later. I have probably a total of 15 or so. But you can write all the information down for everybody that you owe, and all the things like current balance, you know, they probably have a website. I would hope you probably pay through the website or through some bill payment or whatever. But it has, what's the minimum monthly payment? What am I paying? What's the interest rate? When is that payment due? And is that account in good status, bad status? Is it in collection? Is it, and I can tell you from my clients, that last category is as wide open as anything, because I have some clients that they have several already in collections, and I have some that are bad or whatever. But if you made a list, one of my clients, we filled up 3 whole pages. That's literally what they owe. They're in a mess. And if you just put down what you owe, then that can help bring some guidance to saying, for instance, I have 3 credit cards I owe on. And they all are these varying amounts, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, okay? The $1,000 one is at 30% interest. The $2,000 one is at 20% interest, and the $3,000 one is at 10% interest, okay? Which one do I pay more on? The one that has the 30% interest. The one with the highest interest amount, and this is where if you don't summarize something on one page, it's really hard to understand, because our first thought is we want to pay more on the $3,000 because that's a bigger one. Well, we don't. We want to pay on the one that has the highest interest rate, because why? It's working against you. That company is making money the longer that you have a balance with them. So put all your debt on one page, and if you need more, you can grab another, but put it all down there, and then say, okay, which one do I need to pay to first? Or fill this out, scan it in as a PDF, and you can email me. And here is our ministry business card. You can email me and say, hey, this is my debt summary. How do I tackle this? And together we and I can say, you want to start addressing this first. And there's a lot of factors, so it's not just clear cut that you always pay the one first. Sometimes they'll give you something like 6 months interest, and they'll kind of appease you and say, hey, you don't have to pay for 6 or 12 months. And then all of a sudden that thing just jumps like a cliff. And then you're like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. So these are all things that you'll want to take into account. But I hope these 4 sheets will be of helpful to you. Now, here's what I'm going to hand you, and this is what we're going to go over. This is what we went over in November, but this is basically a 5-part, 5 kind of areas that we're going to talk about today to help you with stewardship, your finances. We're going to talk about debt, talk about giving and spending, and we'll talk about what part is ours and what part is God's. Because as I do this, not just being a minister, but I personally, I rely on God for everything. And if we really understand the stewardship side of what God gives us, there's a part He does, and there's a part we do. And many times we'll just kind of look at it and say, well, God, I need you to do this for me. And God says, well, I'll do some of it for you, but oh, by the way, you've got to do your part. So it's like people who say, God, I need you to, help me out of this loan. I got to get out of this loan. Oh, but by the way, I'm the one who made the decision to go out and try to buy a car that is twice what I can pay. Well, that was dumb. You knew you couldn't afford it, but what'd you do? You went out and did it anyway. So instances like that, we kind of just, oh God, help me because I'm in trouble. And He does help us. But why are we in trouble? Usually because of a decision we made. So, anyway, these are here, and we're going to go over these. You want to brush that? Okay. And I've got it stapled together, kind of on a per session basis. There you are. You're very welcome. She doesn't bother me one bit, so I don't feel like if she starts getting wild, that she's going to bother me a bit. So, at this point, if it's okay, I'd like to go ahead and open up in a word of prayer. That'd be all right with everyone? Before we go ahead and get started. God, we are so thankful for all that you do in our lives and all that you bless us with. And God, our whole desire today is that we would just know you a little bit more. Father, we would know your heart and your desire through our finances. God, we know that all of this comes from you. And God, I just ask today that you would open our hearts and open our minds and let our ears be open, God, to what you would want to say to us in this place today. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So are there any questions so far? I know I kind of gave you a lot of stuff right up front, but I kind of wanted to give you all those papers so we didn't get so rushed at the end kind of thing. Any immediate questions up front? Nothing? Nothing? Okay. Then let's go ahead and get started. I hope everybody has something to write with. Does everybody have something to write with? Because you're going to do a little bit of writing. Not a lot, just a little bit.
I have an extra one, I think.
Okay, so all of these notes are actually available. I'll just briefly introduce myself. My name is Matt Rubacha. I'm an ordained minister with the Assemblies of God. I've been ordained now for about 4 years. I've held my credentials with them for, it'll actually be 10 years next month. And our ministry is called No Boat Ministries, such what you saw on the business card. And for the last 10 years, we travel to churches all over Indiana and helping churches with pulpit ministry, with camp meetings, revivals, with so many different things that the church does. And one of the things that I really felt a couple of years ago, God really say to me was, you need to do something with this knowledge that I've given you. And so I didn't really know what that meant. About a year ago, as I was looking for 2014, I really felt God say, you've got to do something about this. You've got to go out and you've got to start helping people. So I talked to Dave Rain today, and I talked with Crown Financial Ministry in the late 70s. And Crown was just an easier opportunity. It just seemed what I'm wanting to do. I'm wanting to see even beyond Crown and help churches. I've done little seminar around Indiana. I'm going to be going out and preaching similar things to what is on these papers, but in more of a message during a service and things. So I'm excited about what God's doing. He's given us clients all across Indiana and Illinois, some that have very low incomes, some that have excessive incomes, some that are heavily in debt, and some that have no debt, and everything in between. Just a really good cross-section of individuals. Single moms, single dads, couples that are getting ready to get married. I have a couple that I counsel that is getting married next month. And then I have those that have been married for almost 30 years. So I'm kind of all over the place, but the principles are, it doesn't really matter where you're at, levels really are the same. So that's what I want to talk about here. In kind of in a 5-session kind of thing. So one, there at the top, the first staple, the first packet that you have, right at the top above where it says notes to read, I want you to write down number 1, and then write, God owns it all. You need a pen? Are you sure? You're taking it in your phone? Awesome. Awesome. So number 1, God owns it all. The Lord talked so much about money because he knew that money would be a struggle for many of us. Some of the topics the Bible covers are how to earn, spend, save, get out of debt, give, invest, budget, and train people to manage money. So the first portion in this, the Lord owns all our possessions. It says in Deuteronomy 10:14, behold to the Lord your God the earth and all that is in it. And then in Psalms 24:1, the earth is the Lord's and all it contains. Let me stop there. The first concept in really understanding finances, stewardship, anything that has to do with money, is God owns it all. That is an area that when you look at our society today and you look at the extensive debt and the extensive luxury that so many individuals live in, they can't grasp that concept that God owns it all. Their belief, their feeling is, I work for it, it's my paycheck, it's my money, I'll do whatever I want with it. And yet the whole time what they've done is they have neglected ever asking God, God, what do you want me to do with your money? Instead, their question is, I'm going to do with my money as I want to. Those are two radically different concepts. The world just is all about me. It's the Walmart consumerism mentality. If I need groceries, I can go into Walmart and I can get any grocery. In fact, I can probably get 15 different kinds of ranch dressing. If I don't like Kraft, I'll buy the Great Value brand. If I don't like it, I have all of these choices and I can do with it whatever I want. I don't have to pick this brand, or I can do whatever I want. And God says, I have a problem. Where did the money come from? Where did all of this start? And so the reality is we get so wrapped up in saying it's my paycheck, it's my money, instead of saying, God, this all came from you. And many people will say, well, I got the job. Well, let me ask you another question. Who opened the door for you to get the job? But really, in most of this life, it has nothing to do with us. I've been listening, if you know the name Lee Strobel. Lee Strobel was an atheist back in the 80s, 70s, 80s. I've been listening to his audiobook called The Case for Christ. And he goes in, and when he works for the Chicago Tribune, he goes and he interviews experts all over the country about all of this data as to whether Jesus really was the Son of God. Was he really who he claimed to be? And it's rather interesting because all of the data, that as he continues to collect it, and all of the experts, and everyone that he talks to, they all come back with the same theme, that he was really who he claimed to be. History upholds it, the archaeology upholds it, all of this upholds it. So Jesus himself talked so much about money because he knew we'd struggle with it. Let me tell you, if I held up a $100 bill right now, and I don't have one with me, but if I had a $100 bill, when we see it as a human being, our mind starts spinning. We start, what could I do with $100? What could I do with that pay increase? What could I do with that bonus? What could I do with this? All of these what? And our mind is just racing. I've read some studies about people who handle money all day long. And they are some of the ones who have no concept of money because it's always around them. And so they're just accustomed to having all these bills just start flowing through all of their hands. We're wrapped around money instead of being wrapped around God. And that's why it is hard for most of us to say, God, you own it all. Matthew 6:33 says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things, food and clothing, everything else, shall be added to you. And that is a real challenge. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how little you make. I don't care how much is in your retirement account or if you don't have anything in retirement. I don't care if you win the lottery, because many people who win the lottery, there was just one on Yahoo the other day. The guy called it a curse. He's like, it was a curse for me to win the lottery. Many people win the lottery. You know what happens to them? They end up filing for bankruptcy, and their whole life is just destroyed. So this is not about more money. This is about saying, God, I have hands that you can work through. When I grasp this concept, then you show me what you want me to do with your money. The second part of that God owns it all, is secondly, we are stewards. Now, that's a different concept when it says we are stewards. It says there in 1 Corinthians 4:2, moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. We need to be faithful with what we are given, faithful in every area. And that's hard. That is really hard. Because you know what? When that new outfit goes on sale, or those boots are only $19.99, rarely priced $59.99, it's like, you know what? That is a steal of the century. I gotta have it. And my wife and I, we talk about this all the time. The things that we get in our house, they all have to be approved by one person. Mr. Budget. So the cool part about letting Mr. Budget into your life is you never have to make a financial decision. Mr. Budget will make it for you. I like Mr. Budget. He's pretty cool. He's a really, he sometimes says to each one of us no. So there in the very back of that packet says principles of faithfulness. Faithfulness with our possessions, faithfulness in the little areas, and faithfulness with another possessions. I don't know if you remember the story about the rich ruler who went out, and as he was getting ready to leave on this long journey, he entrusted his servants. To one he gave 5, to one he gave 2, and the one he gave 1. And the Bible says he was gone for a very long time. So we feel like this story is very much like Jesus. Jesus was here, and he left us, and he gave us the Holy Spirit, and he basically gave us all gifts and talents, and he's trusted us with so many things. But one day he's going to come back and ask us, okay, now tell me what you did with what I left you. And it says to the one who was given 5, he came back and he said, Master, look, I've gained another 5. And the master looks at him and says, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You've done a great job. Now you're going to be ruler over 10 kingdoms. And the one who he gave 2 came and said, Master, look, I had 2, and here I've gotten another 2. And he says the exact same reward. That is the cool part, because I don't have to be Michael Jordan. I don't have to be Beyonce. I don't have to be some rich, glamorous, or some Hollywood person, or something else. I don't have to have some qualification. It doesn't matter whether I was given 5 or I was given 2. I get the same reward. And he says, come and enjoy, and you'll be ruler over 4 kingdoms. Same kind of reward. But then to the one, he said, well, I know that you're a hardworking man and you reap where you did not sow. And so I was afraid, and so I went and I buried it, and here it is. I'm hoping maybe he cleaned it off before he just pulled it back out of the ground. But, here it is. And the ruler, the master, came down so hard on him and said, you know that I'm a hardworking guy. You know that I reap where I don't sow. But you could have at least taken the money and put it in the bank to get interest. And he goes out and he takes the one from that third servant, and he gives it to the one with 10, because he knows he can trust them. Friends, I believe one of the reasons God does not do more with our finances is he can't trust us. He can't. That doesn't mean we're going to be rich. That doesn't mean we're going to make millions. I wouldn't even want to make millions. I mean, it's a waste. I mean, there's just so much excess and so much. But he took the one from the third servant and he gave it to the one who now had 10. He could have just given it to the one who had 4 to give him 5. I don't think that mattered who he gave it to. But I believe he takes some of the blessings that he can't give to some people, and he gives them to others, and he just said, you get even more, because I can trust you. If I pour into you, guess what you do? You go and you do something with it. You don't live your life at Starbucks, and I'm not against Starbucks, but you don't go and you don't spend $200 at Starbucks, or you're not out driving the new Lexus that you can lease for $499 a month and only $5,000 due at signing. That's crazy. Those are just absurd kind of things. There was nothing wrong. In the old days, we had some great cars in the 70s and 80s. Some of them are still on the road today. They had the Pinto. It run for a long time, you know. They had the old Ford Escort. I think some of those probably could run 4, 5, 600,000 miles. Do we always need the best? No, we don't. But we would love to be there. Oh, we want to, ooh, yeah, oh, what I could do with. Well, guess what? Don't say, what could I do with? Say, what am I doing with what God has given me? So, God has a part in this, and you have a part. So you can read more about that. Secondly, the top of that second stapled packet, right above where it says notes to read. It actually going down along the right side vertically, it says session 2 notes. So that way you're not worried. But there at the top you can write down number 2, everybody's favorite word. Ready? Debt. And there was great applause when the speaker said debt. But if we can understand that God has a part in this, and we have a part, we all probably have debt of some sort. And debt in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. To operate in this world today, you actually have to have debt to get debt. Now, I don't like the principle, but I also don't only have to, at times I would like to drive a little faster than 55 miles an hour on the speedway, on the highway. But there are consequences that if you go more than 55, you may have to pay for them in some way. Now, you may get away with it for a while. I've known of people who've done 80, 85 out here on 37, and they've gotten away with it. I've drag raced with people who've done about 80 miles an hour out on 37. Not very proud of it, but I was trying to teach those little youngsters in the car next to me a lesson. So,
We all have our faults.
in this day and age, you have to be credit worthy, quote unquote credit worthy, to get debt. So if you're wanting to buy a home, or if you're wanting to get another car or whatever, you have to be credit worthy anymore, which means you have to show a past record of actually being able to handle and long-term pay for your debt. And a lot of people struggle in that. So let's talk a little bit about debt. A Gallup poll found that the majority of all those who had gone through divorce indicated that financial tension at home was a major factor in the breakups. Such financial tension was created largely by believing the gospel according to Madison Avenue, buy now and pay later with those easy monthly payments. How many times have each one of us heard that? Oh, we can get you into that car. Oh, you have bad credit. No big deal. No problem. We'll get you there. All along, there's something underlying that's not good. The dictionary defines debt as money or property which one person is obligated to pay to another. Bills that come due, such as your monthly electric bill, are not considered debt if they are paid on time. So when you fill out that sheet that has your lender debt summary, I'm not talking about your electric bill. I'm not talking about your water bill. I'm talking about those debts, the credit cards, the student loans, the auto loans. That is what is considered debt. So just want to make sure you've got that clarified. I like what it says in the last paragraph. Assume you have $5,560 in credit card debt, which in reality, for the average American, that's a whole lot less than what the average American has, at an 18% interest rate, which is pretty normal in this day and age, and there are no tax consequences on the interest earned or spent. That would cost you $1,000 in interest annually. And it tells you to study the chart in the next page, so let's flip that over. So if you owe $5,000, 18% interest, in 5 years they earn $154 on. Go before the economic downturn, they said that if you and bought a taco, which would probably be, that's one expensive taco. I don't think it's that good. It's not worth that. But consider this: debt has a much higher cost than many realize. Next time you are tempted to purchase something with debt, ask yourself if the long-term benefits of staying out of debt outweigh the short-term benefits of the purpose or of the purchase. It's rather crazy. Oh. But it's rather crazy with how much people will spend for something. I'm going to give you a real story. One of my clients, this time a year ago, went out and spent $650 on a brand new washing machine. Now, first of all, for her situation, she didn't need the $650 model. The $400 one would have worked just fine. But someone talked her into getting the $650 one. So she went out and spent $650, 6 months, no interest, no payments. June comes and goes. She has not yet made a payment on that washing machine. She is assessed a $150 interest rate because that card is at 30%. So now the $650 becomes $800. The next 2 months, the months of July and August, she doesn't payment. So she's assessed a $35 late fee each month, another $70, plus the additional interest that comes. So now the $650 washer is $9.25. By the time she pays that off with her tax return that will come back in late February or early March, she will have owed about $1,100 for a $650 washer. That is how quick we tend to believe, being this culture, that the credit card companies and these lenders are looking out in our best interest. They are not. They're padding their pocketbooks. They don't care. And if we default, guess what they do? They sue us. They send it to a collection agency, and then we may be pulled into court, or we have to pay this, or negotiate an amount at the end. Either way, they're getting their money at least back. So they're not going to be out. So don't think that they're there to help you. The car bumper sticker with I owe, it's off to work I go, is an unfortunate reality for too many people. I used to work for a company back in Terre Haute, and we paid monthly. And I don't know how you get paid where you work or where you're at. We paid monthly. And it was so interesting My wife and I never had a problem getting paid monthly, never saw an issue, never got down to the end of the month and had any problems. But the first week or two, everybody was going out to lunch. Then that third week would come, and now it was half carry in and half go out to eat. By the last week of the month, nobody was going out to eat. Everybody was carrying in, skipping lunch, bringing her ramen noodles or a can of chicken noodle soup or whatever. Why? Because they never budgeted properly. And so they'd start out, when they get paid, they'd see all these dollars and they would say, I got money. And then it would go quickly because all of the things of this life. Debt is considered slavery. In Proverbs 22:7, we learn why our Lord discourages debt. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant to the lender. They hold us. It's like a puppet on strings. When we owe them money, they own us. We can try and do whatever it is that we can to get out of it, but they own us. So how do we get out of debt? You can read more about this. I like what Ron Blue has to say in these couple paragraphs, but you can read more on this. How do we get out of debt? Number one, we pray. If there's anything that we can do to affect our financial status, first of all, it's we need to pray. Secondly, we need to establish a budget. What is a budget? Simply, a budget helps you plan ahead, evaluate your spending patterns, and control the biggest budget buster of them all, impulse spending. Impulse. Gotta have it. Oh, but mom. Oh, but whatever. I gotta have it. Next, list your assets, everything you own. What do you own that's worth anything? A house, maybe. Car. Maybe you have some retirement accounts or something. List all of that. Then list all your liabilities. That's everything you owe. That is pretty much what the debt lender worksheet will help you with. Establish a debt repayment plan for each creditor. Now, that's important. I have clients who say, well, if I don't pay on this debt, I don't pay on it. And in reality, just being very honest, when we have that level of an approach, we're really not being very Christian-like. Because I really believe that if we signed for something, whether or not we understood all the ins and outs, if we agreed to pay this back, it is our job to pay it back. And our witness is affected when we don't. So one of the things they talk about here, and you may say, well, this kind of contradicts what you said earlier, is they talk about paying small debts first. Now, in a lot of ways, small debts, getting those paid first makes sense. The problem is when the interest rate on those small debts is so high, kind of like my example at the beginning. I only owe $1,000, but it's at 30%. See, because of that, the amount of money that they're making off that $1,000, even though that's the smallest amount that I owe, it has the highest. So in my example, that's what you would want to pay, because it is the smallest amount, but it has the highest interest rate. But that's what the lender debt summary, you can look and you can say, what has the highest interest rate? What is somebody they're just taking from me. So if I owe them $100 a month, 60 of it, let's say 60 of it goes to principal and 40 of it goes to interest. Do you know what that means? $40 of that, they're just taking from your pocket every month. They're just taking it. You don't have any say in it. Wouldn't it be nice if they only took 20? Or none? Or something like that? So they're just taking from you, and then that makes it longer for you to pay off of it. That's why the ones with the smaller interest are some of the last ones that you want to pay. So establish that debt repayment plan. And lastly, don't give up. So many people give up. Bankruptcy, other things that there are, bankruptcy is not a good option. It's basically will be with you. They say after 7 to 10 years it'll disappear. It's going to affect you the rest of your life, no matter how you look at it. And then there's other things in here like automobile debt, co-signing, which I'm not an advocate, and they will say the same thing in here. I'm not an advocate in any way of co-signing, even if it's family. And in fact, one of the principles I've always lived off of is I don't give money, I don't loan money to family. That's actually very biblical. But a lot of people really believe one of my first clients, she just couldn't say no to her daughter. Because she felt if she said no to her daughter, she really was saying no to her son-in-law, and her son-in-law was so dominant over her daughter that he would withhold her daughter to be seen by grandma. And so he's playing this role of saying, if you don't give to us, if you don't help us, you're not going to see your granddaughter. And so she was just always just giving out, and she could never get anywhere. And she could never get past the fact that what he's doing is wrong, but at some point there has to come this thing called tough love. And if that separates you from your granddaughter, it's going to happen, because you're basically giving your whole life away, and he's taking off and he's wasting it. It's really what was happening. If it was being put to good use, maybe I might be a little bit more sympathetic kind of thing. But when he would just go out, go running with his buddies and take up new hobbies and waste the money on himself and not the granddaughter, it's manipulation. It's really manipulation. Okay, the next packet that you have, that's stapled. It says session 3 notes there on the vertical side. At the top, I want you to write number 3. 2 words. Contentment. CONTENTMENT. Contentment and peace. See, once we understand, yeah, it is there in line. That's okay. Once we understand that God has a portion and we have a portion, and we understand what debt is, how it affects us, what it does to us, how we can begin paying this back, at some point we have to get to a point where we are content with what God has given us. But so many people carry the stress of financial issues, financial situations. I'm not talking about something that's an emergency. I'm not talking about suddenly you're outside and you slip on the ice and now you break a leg and you're in the emergency room and now you're going to spend the next 6-8 weeks or whatever in a cast. I'm not talking about emergency. Those are things that happen, and we need to budget and plan for them. That's hard for a lot of people when you live paycheck to paycheck. What I'm talking about is I am content and I'm at peace with where I'm at. I can sleep well at night. I don't have this stress and this pressure and anxiety. I don't have these things in my life because I'm content with what God's given me. You know what? I bet if we were even the survey people in general, let's just say church people, I bet we find a very small percentage of church people that are content with what they have. Because their contentment is in their money. They think the more money they have, the more contentment and the more peace they'll have. It's not true. True contentment, peace, is only found in Jesus. It's not found in anyone or anything else. It's only found in a relationship with God. But yet most people, God is distant from them. God has nothing in their lives. If I've got money in my pocket, oh, I can sleep tonight. Because I don't have to worry about where's the money going to come from for groceries next week, or where's it going to... No. There have been times where we have been unemployed. We've gone through extensive times of unemployment and watching the bank account slowly down. We sold a home, we moved into an apartment. But you know what? I never missed a bill. I never missed having groceries on the table. In fact, there were times people brought us groceries. We didn't ask. We didn't go to the church and say, you know, we're really struggling right now, Matt's unemployed, and we just had people show up at our door with bags of groceries. Why? Because God knew what we needed. We live in this world of we want. I want. We're like the little 2-year-old. Mine. It's all about me. We'll never have contentment and peace in this life. That's how we look at life. We look at our money. And that's hard. You're not just going to wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm content. I'm good. I'm good, man. Count me in. I've got it all. I'm good. Today's a new day. I'm just good. It's going to be something that over months, years, maybe even decades, we're content with where God has us. That's hard. That is really hard. I'll tell you, in my current position, I've really had a great step up and increase as far as it comes financially, benefits, other things. But you know what? We're living off the same budget. Same dollar amount going out. We've got a few things we budgeted a little bit more this year, mostly medical. There may be some things that we're going to have to address, etc. this year. It's okay. Been planning for that for years. Been budgeting, been planning for those kinds of things happening. But I'm content. We could get a bigger home. We could drive brand new cars. I could go out right now and sell both of our cars and buy brand new ones and be able to easily afford it. But for what? What does that gain me? Just more payments? We just finished paying her car off in November. I was like, yes, both cars paid for. Yes, thank you, God. Because we've been budgeting over time. We want to pay this off early. We don't want to go another year, another 18 months. So we put a little bit more on each month. Cut back in something else and put it towards the car. Now we have, all we have left is a mortgage. It's like, yay! I feel like I'm going somewhere in life. So, contentment and peace. There are 3 elements to the secret of contentment. Number 1, know what God requires of a steward, how to manage the possessions that he has entrusted to you. Secondly, how to fulfill those requirements. And thirdly, to trust God to faithfully do his part. I have a t-shirt that says, Christ is counting on me, and on the back it says, I am counting on Christ. See, we're in a relationship. Jesus and I are in a relationship together. And I lean on him, and he leans on me. Now some people say, well, that doesn't make sense because he's God. Why does he need me? Well, guess what? The last time I checked, God just did not come walking in that back door. He uses me. He uses you. He uses real people to accomplish his plan and his will in this world. And so he needs me. He could have easily made up a different plan, but for God there is no plan B. Plan A is to use the people he created to see what he desires to be accomplished. So he needs me and I need him. And so we lean on each other. And when one starts to fall one way, the other can grab and say, hey, come on back. I need you. So that's why I feel like I live with a lot of contentment and peace. Because I'm leaning on Christ. He's leaning on me. My wife and I there together, we're leaning on each other. Sometimes she has to correct me a little bit. But 1 Timothy 6:8, I love what it says there in the scriptures. If we have food and covering, with these we shall be content. That's tough for some people to be able when they see the next person in the cubicle next to them, or the person who drives up in the parking lot, or a neighbor or something, do something or get something. Discontentment comes when you compare your lifestyle to others. There's a good long saying that's been around for a long time about keeping up with the Joneses. Let me tell you about the Joneses. The Joneses are broke. The Joneses are heavily in debt. So, let me ask you a question. Why would you want to keep up with them? That's the average American today. Avoid coveting. Oh, but so-and-so. Mom, but so-and-so has that new iPhone 6. Or, oh, but so-and-so has this. And you know what? In this world, we're not comparing ourselves to anybody else. We are comparing ourselves to God. God, this is your money. This is your blessing. This is your finances. What do you want me to do with it? And don't be conformed to this world. The Bible says, but in the old, I say it because I know from the King James, but be ye transformed. Look different. Smell different. Act different. Talk different. Walk different. Don't do it the way that this world does. The way this world has right now, they have $15,000 in credit card debt. So if you have less than $15,000, maybe pat yourself on the back. I say that in a kind of a jovial, joking kind of way. But that's the average American. Has $15,000 in credit card debt. That is crazy. That's because we can't say no. Have an eternal perspective. We're going to talk about this one a little bit more as we get to the last session. But have an eternal perspective. That what if you, putting yourself in a financial position in the next 3, 6, 12 months, advance you to a point that you were able to give more to, say, missions. You were able to help some not-for-profit organization. We actually help in Bedford. We've been helping Becky's Place. I don't know if you've ever heard of Becky's Place in Bedford. It's basically for it's a shelter basically for women and their children. And you know what? I would rather have extra money. I would rather cut back on what I'm doing and be able to give money to Becky's Place that I see the fruit of what I've been giving. It's helping moms. It's helping kids. One of the board of directors guys, one of the guys who serves on the board of directors, has talked to me about coming and doing a financial thing, not like this, maybe a little bit more simpler for many of those individuals, but to come to Becky's Place and to sit down with all of the moms and help them out. What's a checkbook? What's a checking account? What do we do when you go out and you have 2 part-time jobs and just trying to help people out? I said I'll do it. I'll be glad to. Why? Because they need help. They don't know. And so I would rather give of my time and give of my money to where I see fruit. So have an eternal perspective. There's a lot more that you can read up. I like a lot of the things that they put in here. They even talk about here, kind of at the end of the section, page 46 at the bottom. It says you can know the Lord, and it actually goes through, and it actually tells you how you can receive Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And that's right in the middle of a finance document. So I really think that that's cool. So contentment and peace. We are so, I personally believe we have more people on blood pressure medicine than we should. And we have more diabetics than we should. And we have more of these diseases and issues because finances have contributed to us not sleeping well, not eating well, not being in relationship with others, and it being healthy. And the list goes on, and many of it have a root of it that comes from our finances. So contentment and peace. You can read it more about that. The fourth packet, the fourth stapled one that you have. At the top, go ahead and write down number 4, and then write giving and saving. I think we'll be okay with spelling on those. Giving and saving. Few areas of the Christian life can be more frustrating or rewarding than that of giving. If you understand God's perspective of giving and do it, giving becomes a blessing. Many years ago, I worked at a company, and one of the guys that I work with, one of our network admins, he and I got into a lot of discussions about tithing and about giving. And he looked at me one day at lunch as he's driving his big Ford Expedition, making about 8-10 miles of a gallon. I think it was Eddie Bauer version as well. It's souped up, everything. He said, Matt, I can't afford to give up. And I said, Chris, let me tell you, I can't afford not to. It's a matter of perspective. And giving and saving are matters, and they are attitudes inside of each one of us. Let's talk a little bit about giving. Attitudes in giving. For God so loved the world that he what? He took? No, he gave. He gave his one and only begotten Son. John 3:16. We're all very familiar with that verse. Anywhere in and out of the church. In fact, they hold it up at football games. I always find that to be very comical. But, it's God gave. From the very beginning, God is a giver. And God desires that each one of us would be what? Givers. We would give of our time, our talents, our treasures. We would give of everything that he has put into us. We give it away. The song that Michael W. Smith, I know, has sung, there's a part of it that says, love isn't love till you give it away. It's about this whole life. And I feel it when I say it. The problem with most individuals in this world is we're just afraid to give. Well, what if I have less? Well, guess what? I've heard pastors say this, and they've never had anybody prove them wrong. If you give to God in a year from now, tell me that you're not better off. Show me that you are not financially, personally, relationally, spiritually, psychologically, go through all the areas. If you're a giver to God out of the abundance of your heart, come find me in a year and say, my life's worse. I'll give you money back. I'll write you a check. I have never found in my life, since I watched my dad give very religiously when I was a kid growing up. Every 2 weeks. He always wrote a check, put it in tithe offering. When I went off to school, I had a pastor, the Assemblies of God church that I just started attending, I had a pastor challenge us on what he called a Prove the Lord Day. And I said, you know what, God? I'm going to prove you. I make about $100 a week if I'm lucky. And that needs to go to help my college and to help everything. And I was a student at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology in Terre Haute. And I said, okay, you know what, God? I'm going to prove you. I didn't even tithe 10%. I just put in $5 a week in the offering plate as a college student. That's all I thought I had. And you know what? God started showing up in ways. I was like, man, this don't make any sense. You know, it's not a giving to get. It's a giving to give. It's that opportunity to be able to say, God, you put something into my life. You've given me the ability to sing, or you've given me the ability to play, or you've given me the ability to have this money, or to have this talent, or to be able to, you know, catch a grape in your mouth from 40 feet of room. Whatever it is, you've given me this ability. I need to do something with it. And when it comes to our finances, yes, there's a biblical standard that God has said in His Word that started all the way from very, very early on with Abraham giving a tithe to Melchizedek. And that's a whole other thing. You can go in the Scriptures and study that out. But it says Abraham gave a tithe. And since then, there's been this thing about tithing and giving. And we have people who say, well, if you want to get rid of all of your debt, you know, give me $1,000 and God's going to erase all of your debt. Hogwash. That's not biblical. That's someone's personal opinion. That's someone who wants to just take your money and they might say a prayer for you and, oh well, good luck with that. No, that's not biblical. God says to each one of us in His Word, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And I claim that in my life because I wouldn't stand before you and try to say anything or try to teach you anything that I don't already believe and I've proven to be true in my life. Even the times where we've been unemployed, we've continued to give to God. If I made $50 a week, when I was on unemployment, you only got $300 a week or whatever on unemployment. But when I was on unemployment, I tithed on my unemployment. And God met every need. Now, there were some things we would have liked to have. Did we need them? Probably not. But every need, every bill, we never needed the kids' health insurance in 16 months. Never needed it. Never had to go to the doctor to ever be seen. Didn't have to get a prescription in that whole time. Why? Because I believe that was from years of tithing and giving to God, that God said, I'm going to reward you for that. I can watch out over you. I can make sure you don't get sick, get hurt, have these things happen. Some people just believe that it'll happen. I'm not going to give anything to God. I'm just going to believe God's going to take care of me. Guess what? The equation, it don't add up. It never, ever will. So that's where giving is so important, because it is an attitude. An attitude of love and giving is critical. If I give all my possessions to feed the poor, but I do not have love, it profits me nothing. Man, those are good words from Paul. Oh, those are good words. So you can continue to read more up here about giving. The backside on page 55 talks about the advantages of giving. There's some good stuff in there. Giving. Then saving. Ooh, I love saving. Woo! Everybody gets excited when I talk about saving. Most people don't have any. There was just a study that came out recently, and I downloaded the article. But I believe the numbers were somewhere between 50 and 60% of people right now, if they were to have an emergency and needed cash, that they did not have an adequate amount of money in their possession to be able to pay for that. What am I talking about? Something that's like $500 to $1,000. Like there was a major medical emergency and you end up in the emergency room and it costs you $1,000. More than half of Americans don't have that to pay. They would have to go out and get a loan or put it on a credit card. That is scary. But yet, you know what I'll tell you? Some of those people live in $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 homes. And don't have enough to even cover some level of an emergency. That is scary. It's scary. I have several clients, and you may be in that boat. I have several clients who right now have zippo, nothing in savings, not a thing. And they say to me, I can't put anything in the savings. I said, not even $5 a month? Nope, can't do that. Then guess what? You're probably overspending at where you're at. Probably gone well beyond whatever a budget that you probably never put together to begin with. You've probably gone too far over that. But savings, how to save and how much to save. The Bible does not teach an amount or percentage to be saved. One of the recommendations, and if you've ever heard Dave Ramsey, I tend to agree with him. Of the 100% that you take as a gross, you give 10%, you save 10%, you invest 10%, you live off the 70. I think I like it. Now, you may not be able to both save and invest 10% each, so maybe your saving / investing is a total of 10. So maybe you live off the 80. But we already are 100%, we should live off the 90. Our 90% is really our 100%, because that first 10% is God's. It's first fruits. You can go out and study that in the Word of God. It's not the last 10% of my paycheck, it's the first 10%. That's what he called in the Old Testament to Israel, that portion would be blessed. So saving, investing, avoiding risky investments. There's a lot of people and a lot of things out there. Oh, if you just give me $500, I will. And you know what? You've heard all these schemes and these Bernie Madoff and all of these people who've been out there, even local people who have started these financial things and says, oh, I've got this great deal, give me a couple $100 and you give me a couple $100 and oh yeah, within the next 5 years, your money will be tripled. It's all under my control. You can trust me. Look, do I have a face that can be trusted? And other stuff. And you know what happens? You'll never see that money again. It's gone. And people are conned into it. They talk about gambling and lotteries. One of the dumbest things you can ever do. They always laugh. Years ago, the lottery was like 450 million or something like that. Yeah, we can have little smirks on our face about the lottery. I know. I'm not dumb. I know. And
That's all I heard.
But it's everybody was out to get their tickets. The lines were like long. You couldn't even go in and get gasoline because you have to wait through all the lottery people and everything. And you know what? Most of those people win nothing.
And I've seen people
Nothing.
in the guy in line in front of me, like $60 with these dressed really.
Yeah.
And then I watch him walk out. It's like he's getting in a job.
Yeah. Because we believe we're gonna hit it big. We're due. We're gonna hit it big. Man, we are gonna. And you know what? Every once in a while, my grandmother, when I was a kid, she used to go all the time. She had a very Social Security income when I was a kid, and she would still go out and buy her scratch-offs. And she got down to the point where she couldn't even see, so she'd have me scratch them off. And so we'd sit at the kitchen table. He'd be like, Grandma, you won $3. She'd be like, yay, kind of thing like that. You scratch off, no winner on that one, no winner on that one. I don't know. Did she ever go anywhere? Did she even break even? I don't even know that she ever broke even. I don't ever think I remember her winning more than $5 on one scratch off kind of thing.
After buying 50 tickets.
After buying 50 tickets. But in my life and in my wife's life, as long as we've ever been married, we've never bought a lottery ticket, never bought a scratch off. I've never found it to be worth my time and my investment. That's something that you have to, I'll just be honest with you, you have to pray and consider what you feel is right between you and God. Now the last packet. All I ask is that if you do play, you play responsibly.
$1.
The fifth packet, okay, session 5. There at the top, number 5. I want you to write down family. And then in a bracket, write the word legacy. Do you know one of the reasons why we as Americans struggle with our money? Because it's all about today. It's all about what I feel, I need, I want, I have to have right now. I have to have this at this point right now. I could not live another week if I don't have this. No, I just can't. And so we have all of these expenses and bills and so many other things because we gotta have it now. It's the microwave. I gotta have it warm, and in 30 seconds I can have it nice and warm. So I gotta have it now. You know what's different about some other cultures? Do you know right now in China there are people working that they are putting money in for their kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. Why? Because they are thinking generations ahead. How do I get the next generation to even be a step ahead of where I'm at? Because they're thinking that way. They're thinking that if I live just a normal life, if I live to provide for what I need, the next generation will be able to take the next step up on the rung. And then the generation after that will be the next one. That's why you see many other cultures that turn out and the kids are really well off. Sometimes in some instances it goes to their head, but the reality is they're trying to set a legacy. They're trying to set something for family going forward. Now that doesn't mean they give the kids the money now. That may mean that they started some kind of trust and put $5,000 in it until that kid turns 40 or 30 or 50 or whatever, and they don't even know it's there. And then suddenly they hit of that age, and then all of a sudden this thing kicks in, and next thing you know, they have $500,000 or $100,000 or whatever it is, and they never even knew that it was there. Why? Because someone older, and may I add, and wiser, started thinking about family and leaving a legacy, not just focus with today, tomorrow, or this week. And that's a challenge. It talks about in here, if you're married, the first person you need to consult is your spouse. Figuring out together, you and your spouse, how to go forward financially is such a hard time. If most marriages that end up breaking up, if finances have a strong percentage of the reasons why divorce happens, then it's probably one of the hardest things to talk about. And therefore, you know what we do? We don't talk about it. That beautiful woman over there and I talk all the time about our finances. Every month, at the end of the month, we have what is considered to be one of her favorite times. We talk about the summary of the finances from the previous month. And her response is, when I say, "Hon, we need to talk about our finances," this is her response. Yay. She's so excited about it, but you know what we've done for years? Every month, we talk about it. We do it together. I may do all the physical inputting. I may do all of it to turn out in the charts and the graphs and the spreadsheets, and I do all that because I love to. But at the same time, we are always talking. In fact, we have a rule that says if we're going to spend more than $50, we don't do it until we talk to the other person. It may be the greatest thing. It may be no big deal. She may have already said, "Hey, I'm going to Walmart and I'm going to buy groceries." And I'm already probably knowing it might be a couple $100 worth of groceries for the month or something like that. We just don't do anything beyond $50 without talking to the person. And neither one of us break that. We're always talking. "Hun, do you think it's okay? I bought a few things last night on the internet that actually will help us as we continue to go through our thing. This $130-some or whatever. And we get a little bit of benefit from that back. We'll use the products and other things like that." She doesn't care if I do that. She knows it's going to help us. But I never even hit submit on that order unless she knows. That is so important in any relationship. If you're going to be successful in a marriage, you've got to be successful together. The same thing is true in finances. If you're going to be successful in your finances, you got to do it together. Training children. It says in Proverbs 22:6, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it." Our kids need to know. I involve my son at times to talk about, "Son, this is what we have in the budget. This is what we're paying. This is how we're doing this. We don't just blindly go at this and hope that we end up where we want to, because guess what? More times than not, we won't. So teaching them the practical experiences about income, budgeting, saving and investing, debt, giving, and then leaving some type of inheritance, which also pulls in on the last page the word wills. What is left behind you? Because at some point you won't be here anymore. At some point I won't be here. And if there's nothing left behind to give, but leaving your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter or whomever, except leaving them with debt, that's not anything I want to leave anyone. I wouldn't want debt to be on anyone from someone passing away or dying. But guess what? We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We don't know what tomorrow holds. Right now, in our situation, if something were to happen to me today, I have life insurance. I have personal life insurance. I have life insurance through my company. So she's going to be taken care of just fine. Whatever she does, whatever decision she makes, whether she gets remarried or helps make sure the kids get through college or sells the house or sells the car, I don't care. I'm not here. I just want to make sure it's my responsibility to take care of her and my two kids. And so I'm investing in that future. I'm wanting to leave some kind of legacy behind. Now, does that mean you have to leave large amounts of money? No. But you need to leave something behind. It may not be money. It may have been your time. It may have been some talent or some treasure that you shared or whatever. But we have to leave something behind. And in our finances anymore, we don't. Because there's nothing left over. We're in the negative. USA Today last year, and I'll close with this. USA Today last year said that the overall spending to debt ratio actually got better by 1% in 2013. It went from 108% to 107%. You know what that means? We're still spending more than we're taking in. And they want to celebrate and say, we're going somewhere. It's getting better. Wait a minute. There comes that point. And beyond that point, it doesn't matter where the numbers are. The moment we spend beyond what we make, we have a problem. So I hope you enjoyed going over these. I hope that they were some help. There's more you can read up on. And I will be more than glad to answer any questions at this point about anything we talked about, or anything else from any of the other handouts, or any other just personal financial questions that you have. I'll be more than glad to discuss any of them at this time. You're welcome.
Since this is gonna just be us, pretty much, I know Ashley has to leave pretty soon, so, along with I went over with Matt, we had, talked about this, but here's some extra resources as well to help you. Matt, he does have this consulting he'll work with people for $25 to dig into your records. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, but because of his time, we appreciate his time and valuable, he does these workshops for free, where you guys can get the information. But then if you want like a one-on-one with him to really dig into it, figure out where you want to go, he has a $25 fee. So if you want to set an appointment with him, and there's also other resources there. Yoli, which helps people to figure out where they're spending their money at. And it's very visual. And then Credit Karma, he recommends you guys get into Credit Karma before, so when you do meet with him, then your information's already there. And if you have any problems. Now, of course, Crown Financial Ministry, the organization he works with, something that he had, the information had given to me earlier in November, which is another great resource. And also, and this is also for you guys to give to your friends and family to share. You know, we don't want you to keep this information to yourself. You know, and the South Central Community Action Program, SCCAP, they have a lot of programs that help with energy assistance, child care, modernization if you own your own home, housing, and there's a program called the IDA called the Individual Development Accounts. It's on your page. It's sponsored with Old National Bank, and that helps people to start saving. And when they help you start saving, it's to also help you to look into buying a home. Because it is a problem, and they teach people how to save. And I think that with their tools and Rubacha's tools, through Christian faith, you will get there. And I have to say, I'm a testimonial to that. We had the workshop in November, and it has made a big difference. I used to put it just on a little notebook, and now I had an Excel sheet that has everything that I'm spending. And I did not realize how much I was spending. And I'm still working on things, but it's hard. It's hard work. It's something you shouldn't take lightly. If you're going to do it, do it. And that's part of being responsible and accountability. And you have to take accountability to why you don't have money. And it's little things as eating less out. I've been bringing my lunch to work every day. That saves me $5 to $6 a day. I don't drink soda. I don't go to the vending machine anymore. I drink water. And I pack my son's lunch every day, so that's another. And another thing too, actually I know you're gonna leave pretty soon, but here are some questions that you can ask yourself. And to think about, I know you have about, he has a copy of that. These are the things that you can also think about, and that is list your financial goals from 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year, first 10 years. Questions, do you have a checking account? If you don't have a checking account, get one. Because they're becoming harder to get now, because terrorists, a lot of times they want a lot of information. So I always had a checking account, so I don't know the rules now with checking accounts, trying to open up one. It was much easier 20 years ago, 15 years ago, but now it's becoming a lot more difficult. Do you have a savings account? That's a good thing to have. And savings, you don't touch, don't matter. It's like your blind account. You forgot it's there. Even though I had to dip into my savings account to help out someone's family. Questions to ask yourself. List the setbacks to reach any of these goals. Is it cigarettes, coffee, eating out? Eating out is a big thing for me. List the items or activities that can be reduced, increased to meet these goals. For instance, stop impulse purchasing. I had a big problem, impulsive purchasing, problem with that. Stop eating fast foods at lunch, cook more at home, and get rid of cable, but find cheaper entertainment. Then I got cable. Okay. And then, where are you doing to help save money? For like you're using coupons, purchases on sales, like these boots. They were $40. Got them for $20. But that's part of impulse buying too. So, and then can your income sustain you presently to save money without cutting out anything? So then that means that you're doing good. But I don't think most people are in that position. And what did you add to your expense that wasn't there 6 months ago? And I think that's very important. Like, I didn't have cable, now I have cable. I'm getting a cell phone. So these are some of the questions that you should think about with your personal life, because it gives you a reality check on that. And another thing too, I have here, and you guys, I know Ashley has to go, and then we're gonna, here, there's blocks here, and it just shows your income. So it's just a block where it shows you your income, your asset, basically what he had given us. This is something that you can just think about like as a draft. And then your household bills, which is very, very important. And when I say household bills, I'm not just talking about your water bill and your electric bill. I'm talking about your cell phone, something that you have to pay every month, no matter what, that we shut down. And, it doesn't really matter. And then your debt, loans and credit cards. And sometimes, assets, you could say your house is a debt, but it's a good debt because it's, so it's whatever you think it is. So, you can fill it out now, and talk to Matt about it. I know you have to leave. But, so I just want to quickly give you guys that information and actually thank you. And also another thing too, because, everyone, I just appreciate you guys being here because this is true to my heart because with Matt, he made me realize about my finances. I started working on budgeting because of Dave Ramsey, but with him being here, I took it to a step higher that I didn't even think that I would ever be. So for my appreciation, so I want everyone else to be where I'm trying to be at because I think that a healthier community financially makes a better world. And that's our goal, you know, because we'll be able to give and serve the Lord more when we have more money to give. So, and Ashley, before you leave, why don't you pick out something as a thank you thing? Yeah, I figured you probably pick that because that's your daughter.
Oh,
So,
that's your grand-
yes, that's my granddaughter.
It'd be awkward having someone else with the picture of their daughter.
Well, it has a saying on it. So, but it's just, it's for encouragement and inspiration. So, anyway, Mary, do you have any questions? I'm going to shut this off. So thank you for attending. They're going to be on YouTube. So I'll send everyone the little links, baby crying and everyone laughing, you know, but